Welcome to Lesson 4, Fraction Manipulation. Here's the worksheet that you'll be using for this lesson. If you're working independently at home, there's a link down in the description where you can find the worksheet online so you can work along with me. First, let's go over some of the terms that I'm going to be using during the lesson. A lot of these you probably already know, but we're going to talk about them in depth. First, numerator and denominator. The numerator is the number on the top. The denominator is the number on the bottom. I always remember that because D and down start with the same letter. They both start with D. That's just my little trick there. Now, next is lowest terms. You're going to hear that all the time. Leave your answer in lowest terms. Lowest terms means there's not a number, no one number that will go into both the numerator and the denominator at the same time. So if you've gotten it to where there's no one number that'll go into the top and the bottom, then you are in lowest terms. Next is proper. That's where the numerator is smaller than the denominator, versus improper, where your numerator is larger. Okay? Now, let's talk first about putting your answer in lowest terms. Most of the times your directions will say that you need to leave it in lowest terms, but if it doesn't, you always need to leave a fraction in lowest terms, and this is why. If you look at the fraction 1/2, how many different ways are there to write 1/2? Well, you could put 5/10, you can put 8/16, you could even put 2.5 over 5. All of these mean the same as 1/2. There's an infinite number of ways that I could rewrite 1/2 as a fraction, and that leads to confusion. We don't want math to be confusing. So always reduce your fractions to lowest terms. Make sure there's not any number that will go into the top and the bottom. Now, let's talk about proper versus improper. It is not wrong to have a fraction be improper, unless the directions say make your answer into a mixed number. Mixed number is what you get from improper, and we'll look at that in just a little while. For example, 5/3 is an improper fraction, but it's not a wrong answer unless you've been told to change it to a mixed number. Now, if I had 10/6, you see, this is wrong. I could not leave this for an answer because it's not lowest terms. It's not wrong because it's improper, but it's wrong because it's not lowest terms. Usually when we work with fractions, or mixed numbers, the first thing you have to do is change them to an improper fraction. So I usually at this point just leave my fractions improper until the very end. And if I'm told to change it to a mixed number, then that's what I do. Okay? Now real quick, let me run through these 4 divisibility rules. There are more rules than this, but these will get you through the majority of the problems. How to tell if it's divisible by 2. Well, if it ends in an even number, 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8, and you see the example there, 7,114. Well, it ends in a 4. 4 is even, so that whole number is divisible by 2. 3. If you can add up all your digits and they are a multiple of 3, if 3 will go into that, then it's divisible by 3. And the example I put on here is 3,501. And you add them all up. 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3, so this whole number is divisible by 3. 5. Naturally, if it ends in a 0 or a 5, it's divisible by 5. And if it ends in a 0, it's divisible by 10. Okay, those will get you through the biggest part of your problem. Now, let's look at how to reduce a fraction. Let's just take 5/7. Now, you can manipulate this fraction to make it larger, to make it smaller. The rule is anything you do to the numerator, you have to do to the denominator. A multiplication and division wise. I can multiply this times anything I want to, as long as I do it to the top and the bottom. So if I need to enlarge it for some reason, say I'm trying to find a common denominator with another number, let's say I want the denominator to be 35. Well, ask yourself, what did I multiply 7 by to get 35? You multiplied it by 5, so you have to multiply the top by 5. So that gives you 25. Let's just say I have a fraction and I'm told that 10 is the numerator. How do I make them match? Go back to your original fraction and ask yourself, what did I multiply this numerator by to get the 10? Well, I multiplied it by 2, so I have to multiply the top by 2. So the equivalent fraction would be 10 over 14. Reducing fractions works exactly the same way, except instead of multiplying, you're going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So here's a couple of examples. Let's take 25 over 15. What number will go into both of those numbers? 5, right? Now you see why your divisibility rules come in handy in this process. 5 will go into both of these. So if I divide the top number by 5 and the bottom number by 5, I get 25 divided by 5 is 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And I check it. I say, is there any other number that'll go into both of these numbers? No. So this is lowest terms. Now, the most efficient way to do this is to take the largest number that goes into both of them at the same time. But I'm really bad about just trying to nibble away at it. And if you just keep going, it works. And this is what I mean. Look at 36 over 28. Sometimes I don't want to take the time to figure out what the greatest common factor is. So I just look at them and say, well, they're both even. So 2 will go into both of them. If I divide both of these by 2, 36 divided by 2 is 18. And 28 divided by 2 is 14. Now I look at my answer and I say, well, you know, those are both still even. So 2 will go into both of these again. So divide again. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Look at your answer. Is this lowest terms? Yes, it is. Now it is improper, but we weren't told to change it to a mixed number, so we're going to leave it that way. But this is what I mean about whittling away at it. Now, it would have been much more efficient to use my head and say, well, you know, 4 will go into both of these and divide both of them by 4 and get straight to the answer. But especially in a testing situation, if you can't, you know, think that quickly, just keep whittling away at it until there is nothing else that'll go into both of them and you'll still get the right answer. Okay, now dealing with improper fractions and mixed numbers. Let's go back to the 5/3 that we used a minute ago. Like I said, this is improper. It is in lowest terms, but it is improper. If I want to change this to a mixed number, ask yourself, how many times will 3 go into 5? Well, it'll go in there 1 time, right? Then how many are left over? Well, 5 minus 3 is 2. And your denominator always stays the same. So mixed number form of this is 1 2/3. Let's look at another one. Let's take, 25 over 7. Okay? Ask yourself, how many times will 7 go into 25? Evenly. Well, it'll go in even 3 times. So 7 times 3 is 21. Now you subtract that 21, 25 minus 21, that gives you 4 left over, 7. Okay? It's just that simple. Now let's look at going the other way. What if you have a mixed number and you want to change it to an improper fraction? Let's take 2 3/5. Okay? Quick way to do this is multiply the denominator times your whole number. 5 times 2 is 10. And then you add the numerator. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 3 is 13. And you put this over your original denominator. Okay? Let's do one more. Let's say 3 7/10. Okay? Multiply 10 times 3 to get 30. Add the 7. So now you're at 37. Original denominator goes there. 37/10. Okay? And once again, both of these are lowest terms. They're just not proper. Okay? Now, that should be all you need to know to work through these few problems on your worksheet. Now, since there are just a few problems, you need to make sure that you get them all correct. Okay? If you have any trouble, drop me a comment and I'll see if I can explain it a little bit further. Thanks for watching the video. Bye.